Okay, so I'm jumping my hyena into 75FA, which is a system without any stations, and this is the system I've chosen to jump my carrier in on the test server. Notice that I've got a Cyno field generator and 3 webs to insta-web the carrier. I notice in local that no one's in here. It's not surprising in the test server, but that's the check I would make in a real-life server. I check back with my carrier, and I see that it's sitting outside of station. Normally I wouldn't have let it go so far away from the station. I just wasn't paying attention to it as I moved the hyena, but this is the test server, so imagine it's right next to the server and just stopped and waiting. I've got the alt in fleet, which is important for jumping. I've got modules on and cloaked. So no matter where I am in the system, it doesn't really matter anymore because I'm cloaked now. So alright, he's safe, and I go back to my hyena. Okay, so here's the hyena. I'm going to warp him to within 100 of the Stargate, and I'm going to create a bookmark between the two. I'm going to call it one spot. Now, if there was anyone in the system, I wouldn't do this because right in the middle of the warp, because oftentimes bubbles are on the gates and they can catch you, and if there's someone waiting at the gate, they can knock you down, and so not a good idea. So if there was a Newton system and this is nullsec, which it is, I would warp to a some kind of body nearby, like a planet nearby. And if I push F10 and then I click on solar system map, I can see a map. If this was the Stargate I was warping to, looks like my bookmarks are really close to that Stargate. Then I would try to find a planet nearby, which this one doesn't have a planet nearby, but then I go to that nearby planet, I'd aim at the Stargate and use directional scanner and scan to see if I see any bubbles on the scan, to see if I might run into anything. And if I did, I'd try to warp into that Stargate if I was going to go through it from a direction where I didn't think bubbles would be placed. So, alright. I have a bookmark that's really too close to that Stargate. People jumped in, went to the Cyno, they wouldn't have very far to go. So, rather than use that, I'm going to try to make some other bookmarks. So, what I'm seeing is distance between this place and this Stargate looks pretty large. So I'm going to try and catch something in between here. So I'm going to do a warp to 100. Add bookmark. I'm going to call it 2 spot. Or my second spot. I'm going to watch the distance here and watch where this thing is and try to get it somewhere right in the middle. Right in there. Good. So I've got a good spot between these two. The 2 spot looks really good. Now I'm going to try to get another spot, probably between... I don't want it to get it close to this grouping of planets and moons, so I'm going to try to get it between this bookmark and this group right there. So still kind of close, but hopefully I can get something right around here. Actually, it might have been more interesting to get something in between here from this group. So what I'm doing is I'm getting 2 different safe spot bookmarks. One's going to be where the Cyno field is, and the other is going to be where we're going to try and get the carrier before it. Now, if I had another Cyno field up, or that I could put up immediately, then the carrier would just have to wait a little bit until it got enough cap, and then it could jump to the next one. So going to go ahead and go to here and then get something between these two. That was actually quite a good bookmark. Okay. So I'll warp to 100 or warp to this one. Get a bookmark between them. And then I'm going to figure out a way that I can get the carrier. Interesting. Huh. Someone has a small bubble up over where I am over here. Alright. So warp to there and put up another one. I'll call it 3 spot. This is also a great method for just creating safe bookmarks, and something you could use for any ship. Okay, so he's on his way. I'll catch it right in there. Not bad. Creating safe spots is a great way to avoid being scanned down, to keep yourself safe while you're still logged on. Okay, so that one looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to set up the Cyno field over here. And now I have to figure out a way to get the bookmark to the carrier, and also the carrier to get the liquid ozone to the Cyno alt, for them to do a quick exchange and get the carrier out of there. Obviously, if the frig was over here, I could just have him warp to there, but he isn't. I'm wondering if I can broadcast that location. Broadcast travel to. And I wonder if he can travel to that when he's in here. So I'm going to try a broadcast travel to. And that would be really convenient. Then I'll try putting up the Cyno field, which I should have. Huh. No kidding. Alright, so I don't have any liquid ozone in here. So that's not going to work. Let me go ahead and get the liquid ozone. I'll come back and do this, finish this. Okay, what I've decided to do is warp the Hyena Cyno alt to in 75A, Planet 7, Moon 22. And I'm looking for towers to see if there are any, if there's any threat at that moon. And let's say I saw a tower at that. Well, this frig is going to be really fast enough to warp out of there. I'm going to warp to 0 to Planet 7, Moon 9. So this is an exercise. I warp to different moons, and I'm choosing moons because they're a lot harder to guess where a carrier might be. If someone came into system all of a sudden and tried to get this thing. So then I just remember, okay, Planet 7, Moon 9, that's where my carrier is going to go to grab a bookmark. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the bookmark for the place, the safe place I want him to go. So I'm going to insta-warp him out of the Cyno area to 7, Moon 9, and I'm going to send him to bookmark 3. So of course I'm going to jet bookmark 3. I'll just drag with the left mouse button. I'll hold down the shift. Hold down the shift right before I let go. Okay, so now I'm going to jet this. So it's at Planet 7, Moon 9. Put the Cyno here because it's kind of far away from the two gates. So these two gates. So if someone jumped in and went to the Cyno, I'd have a little bit of time to get that carrier out to Planet 7. And that's something probably you really want to write down. So it was Planet 7, Moon 9. Okay, warping to 0, Planet 7, Moon 9. This is exactly what my carrier would do. It'd probably be in warp about that quickly. There it is. So the carrier would land right on top of the jet can, grab the bookmark, and it would go to the alternate safe. And that's not really very close. So the carrier would have to move a little bit to get that, and that's not a good idea at all. It's kind of funny, I warped to 0 and from 2 different directions, and I should have landed on exactly the same place. I am in fleet with my Cyno alt. That's going to be important when I put this up. I've got to be in fleet in order to take the jump, to take the Cyno. So I've got the liquid ozone I need. I've got 3 Webers to get that carrier out quickly. I'm looking at local. Local's clear, and so I put up the Cyno. Then I go to the carrier, uncloak, right-click on the capacitor, jump to Hidden Eagle. And he jumps. Takes up my cap, as I expected. And I see that the carrier warped off. And I'm going to have to sit here with the hyena for however long that Cyno is going to be there. I think it's 10 minutes. The carrier is on its way to the moon, which I saw was safe. It sees a container, and the container is as far away as it was from the hyena. So I would actually have to move towards this container, put it in the people and places, and then warp to that bookmark. So this part right here is not ideal. I had to wait a few seconds to get over there, some 500 meters. Put it in here, and then I'm going to warp to that safe spot. So once I get there, I'm going to put on the cloak, and I should be safe. So except for this little part right here, which is still pretty safe, because I can't imagine anyone knowing where to warp to get this carrier. They'd be warping all around Planet 7 if they use the directional scanner and goes, oh, he went over there somewhere. But I had an instant warp to here. There was some time, if they had jumped through the gate to the Cyno, for me to get out of there. And from here, it takes a little bit of time to align, but it's mostly safe. And I'm at the new safe spot. So a pretty safe way if I didn't have another Cyno already lined up for the carrier to just jump to. And even if I did, right about now is when I'd actually be able to jump, because I had to get to 70% capacitor. So this carrier's been in warp a couple of times from that point. So obviously you can't get the carrier while it's in warp, and it's at a moon that's unoccupied, which is very common. It's not going to be very easy to find it before it warps off again. So I'm in a safe spot. I cloak up like that, and he's gone. So he's completely safe, and my Cyno alt's sitting there just waiting to be potted, or for anyone to come along and say, hey, look, free kill now. So I did make sure that I clicked on this so that it's flashing red, just in case there was enough for another Cyno round. I don't want this to do 20 minutes just sitting here. So that's one advantage to having room for only 350 liquid ozone. And I thank you for watching. This is Andy Landon and EVE Online.